Well, good evening to all of you that are joining us tonight on the Marcia Weeks show. It's a real pleasure to have you back with us again tonight. It is my unexpected pleasure to be your host again tonight. I normally look after the Monday nights, but there is an important event that has taken place that has resulted in me being the host on the program tonight and Friday night and Sunday night. I get the privilege of being your host on all of these platforms and all of these shows over the next couple of days. And I would have to say it's a pleasure. It is always a pleasure to join together with all of you from. Let me make sure I get it correctly from the loyal, patriotic opposition. We reflect on our national anthem. Don't know if you can see it, but I'm wearing a yellow shirt because I'm celebrating Independence Day. That's what I'm celebrating. Um, there is no mixed signals coming from us. We know what we are celebrating, and we might get around to touching on that tonight. I do want to touch a bit tonight on the Samoa Agreement and the rubbish statements that I've heard coming out of the mouth of some educated individuals who ought to know better. And I also want to deal with a couple of statements that have been made by I call it a disrespectful news media out of St. Vincent. I'm weary, tired and fed up that every time you disagree with people within the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm not pulling any punches tonight. You're considered to be homophobic and bigot. I don't agree with you. That's the bottom line. I don't agree with you. Science doesn't agree with you. None of the religious groupings across the planet agree with you. Not even people in what we would call the backlands of the world in the forests and whatnot agree with you. It's not normal. Get it through your thick skull. It is not normal. It's not natural. Pardon me if I raise my voice, but there are times you just get disgusted and fed up with the nonsense and then some foolishness I'm reading about how evangelicals are the people who are causing all of this homophobia and all that bigotry and all that crap. I'm tired of this nonsense. You got a lifestyle that is not natural. It has nothing to do with evangelicals. It's to do with science. Dogs and cats don't make that mistake. Dogs know what they are, and cats know what they are. The birds and the bees know what they are, but we don't seem to settle what we are. You got to pardon me if I get a little irritated with this rubbish, but you can do whatever you like, but just don't try to force it upon other people. And that is what the global agenda is about primarily. It is nothing to do with economics or trade. It is to do with the enforcing of a sexual agenda upon the world. And if you don't believe it, do your research. And I'm disgusted and fed up with some of these stupid politicians who I ought to know better, and people that I know, Mr. Simmons and Mr. Hinkson. And I'm going to call their names. Totally ignorant when it comes to the importance of spirituality within the context of our existence as a people. And I make no apologies for it, and I'm not backing away from it as a minister of the gospel. And then I'm hearing some stupidness coming from Reverend Rogers, some total nonsense coming from Reverend Rogers. That's the problem we have in Christendom. We got all these different sects and these different denominations and whatnot. Half of them don't know what the Bible says. Half of them don't know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Half of them don't know what it means to apply the biblical values to life. And all they do is pander to the politicians. And I'm tired of it. I'm not one to do that, not about to engage in it. I see some people there telling me nothing wrong with raising my voice. Sometimes you have to use extra language. That's true. And sometimes you get passionate about something. People think you're getting angry. And I guess to some degree I am a bit angry. The reason I'm angry is because we have politicians who ought to know better. Hinkson should know better. Simmons should know better. Motley should know better. These are things that they need to understand. Don't come to me with this rubbish. You've been living in this world for donkey years. You know what our values and position is in Barbados. Don't compromise our country for this rubbish. and come back and talk about how there's a group of people going around the country stirring up. They're not stirring up anything. It's the people of the country that want answers from you, and you're not giving us the answers. When you don't agree with the LGBTQ2 plus group or agenda, you are not a bigot and you're not homophobic. You are a person who is expressing a disagreement and you're asking for clarification and you're asking concerning matters to do with what they expect from us. That is not bigotry or homophobia. I'm tired of this foolishness. Every time you open your mouth and have to say anything about that grouping, you get accused of being bigoted and homophobic. Foolishness. Foolishness. We're not bigoted and we're not homophobic. We're simply not accepting the foolish conversation you want to have with us concerning a violation of nature and science. It's as simple as that. And so I'm not making any more bone. I'm trying to be polite. I've tried to be patient. I've tried to be decent, and I'm going to maintain my decency because my mother would expect me to do that. But I'm going to be passionate about it. I don't expect you to force your lifestyle upon me any more than I will force my faith upon you. I will tell you what the gospel says. I will tell you the Bible says that you are a sinner. I will tell you that the Bible says it's an abomination before Almighty God, and you can do with that whatever you want. If you want to curse God and you want to fight God, that's your business. But as a Christian minister, I am not going to deviate one iota from the Bible and what the Bible assesses your lifestyle to be. I am not deviating one split second. If Dr. Rogers wants to do it, that's his business. He's going to have to stand before God and give an account as a so-called Christian minister defending the biblical position on matters. He doesn't have to give an account to me, but I will stand before God and I will make sure my conscience is clear, my hands are clean. I think it's in the book of Ezekiel where the Lord says, when you see a man in his sin, warn him in his sin. If you don't warn him when he is in his sin, he dies in his sin, I will require his blood at your hands. But if you warn him in his sin and he dies in his sin, your hands are clean. Well, my hands are going to be clean. I am not going to be carrying your blood to my grave. I will not be doing that. I will tell you what the Bible says, and if you want to accept it, that's entirely up to you. But one thing I will not accept is a violation of nature. And there's no prime minister, minister of external affairs or international affairs or member of parliament is going to change that biblical position. Be he Hinkson, Simmons, or Motley. I don't care what name you call them by. And I don't care. I really don't care what they think where the matter is concerned. We are not here pontificating religious matters. We are here dealing with the values of our society as Barbadians, and the fact that we see the international agencies across the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, but more even dangerously, the United States. And if I get a chance tonight to read some stuff to you, I am going to read it to you, because people think this is a joke. People think that we are the only people on the planet that are talking about this. Well, we're not. I'm going to show you tonight a ministerial statement coming to us from the Republic of Namibia. We got some things, Lamumba, that we got to address in this country, and people keep trying to put it into just into a minority group or minuscule group of people that disgruntled and whatnot. Man, I am tired of this foolishness. We got a government that does not talk with the people, a government that, they will probably claim, Lamumba, that they talk with the people because they hold constituency meetings, but they're Barbados Labour Party constituency meetings. They are not town hall meetings with the people of Barbados, as far as I'm aware. We were deceived throughout the pandemic, and today, this afternoon, I was sitting down here in my room, even engaging the thought of speaking to this matter of the vaccines and the COVID-19, where the prime minister is concerned, because I hear people talking about how she handles so well. She is complicit in the death of people in this country, and I don't care if they want to take legal action against me. Let them take legal action against me.
It is true, and I agree.
She's complicit because she mandated vaccines at one stage. You couldn't go into places unless you were vaccinated. She set up a environment of the vaccinated against the unvaccinated, and we were putting it out to people back then that the vaccines were not safe. The vaccines would not protect you. We brought in experts on shows to establish that, and the chief medical officer and the president of the Barbados Medical Association both are complicit in this matter. And I shared it with them. I shared it with the president. I sent information to her, and she told me a lot of nonsense. And I'm upset with the matter because people, I believe, have died. Don't let me go and put myself in trouble. I believe that some people have died as a result of the fact that the government prevented people from accessing any other form of medication to treat to that virus apart from a vaccine from Pfizer, which we now know it was a lie. We now know Moderna was a lie. We know it now. These are facts that have been revealed, and they were complicit in that. So don't try to tell me no
That's
foolishness
right.
about our prime minister helping us to navigate foolishness. You put our lives on the line. You put us in danger. You prevented us from accessing ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and quin in this country when they knew that we could have used it. And you come to a point where enough is enough, man. Enough is enough. All we got continuing is a compilation of lie upon lie upon lie upon lie. You know what I'm saying? And
Like,
I'll tell you, I am fed up of it. Fed up of it. It is precisely the intent to shut down and shut up anybody who is in disagreement with you. And I there's a lot that we could talk about. We could talk about the ID cards. We could talk about the national insurance. We could talk about a lot of different things. I am going to share something because I hear and I'm looking at some statements. I'm looking at some statements. Hinkson defends some more agreement. Let me pull it up. But look at this. Look at this article. Now, here's this. Some religious and political leaders have been accused of trying to create hysteria about Barbados signing on to the Samoa Agreement. Some critics charge that the government is allowing the European Union to force foreign ideologies by imposing comprehensive sexual education and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender legislation. However, Barbados' representation in the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States and the European Joint Parliament Assembly, Edmund Hinkson, has defended the move, saying it protects all Barbadians from all walks of life. And listen to the statement. Those faith-based organizations that are creating hysteria at every turn in Barbados, are they saying that all our people are not entitled to enjoy the full range of human rights? But check out what I can drop down to another area where he engages something. Um, Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it, man. Because when I read this thing, I felt like, I really box this guy. I really got to try and hold myself. Listen to this. However, Hinkson questioned why some critics always limited issues to the LGBT community, adding the partnership could be beneficial to healthcare and assisting climate change adaptation efforts. What climate change? What could the involvement of the LGBT community assist in terms of climate change adaptation, except that,
depopulation.
man, listen, I got annoyed about this. And you know what I did?
Yeah,
Here's the next thing I can share because people need to see what's going on, because he is saying that we are creating hysteria. Am I correct? That's what you see there on the report, right? He said we
right.
create hysteria. All right, let me show you something else. Let me show you something else. I'm gonna stop that one, and I'm gonna share another one with you. Let me just try and make sure I get the right one up because people need to see what is being said. Now, people would get the impression that the only people who engage in this thing is some small grouping of people in Barbados who creating hysteria and creating problems. This is a ministerial statement by let me scroll down and let you see. This is a ministerial statement. I want to go right to the top to let you see who it's from. Republic of Namibia, okay? And this is a statement. This is a ministerial statement by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, consideration on the signing of the new partnership agreement NPA between the European Union and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, the OACPS. I'm going to slide down on this. I'm going to go down to the point. Listen to what he says. The treaty does not have a glossary of terms or a definition section. So they are making statements in a treaty addressing sexuality and and gender education, and none of the terms are defined. There's no glossary of terms or definition section in this agreement. You could imagine that. Even a bill passed in the House of Assembly carries a glossary so that you can determine what is the meaning when they say certain words. All right, so that's the first thing he draws attention to. Then he goes on to talk about Article 49, destruction of the ivory stockpiles. He also goes on to treat the matters to do with the new partnership agreement. Even after negotiations were closed, it is normal practice when concluding international treaties that provisions for declaration should be made in the text so that a state may make a declaration about its understanding of a matter contained in or the interpretation of a particular provision in the treaty. The purpose of the interpretive declarations of this kind would be to clarify the meaning of certain provisions or the entire treaty. The new partnership agreement does not include a provision clause article for reservations. This is the Deputy Prime Minister of Namibia. And notice what he goes on to say. Additional aspects of the new partnership agreement states no treaty, convention, agreement, or arrangement of any kind between one or more states shall impede the implementation of this agreement. So whether you like it or not, you got to take it. Okay? And listen, based on the above given information, a decision was taken that the government of the Republic of Namibia will not sign the new partnership agreement. How are we creating hysteria in the country when the Deputy Prime Minister of Namibia is supporting what we are saying? And now you got this Reverend Rogers talking nonsense about preceding agreements that are more concerning than this one. But this one says, and look at right there in front of you, the new partnership agreement would be a 20-year-long political and legally binding document once signed and ratified by interested parties. You can't get out of it. You can't get out of it. So even if you disagree with anything, you got to take it as it comes. And he goes on, look, he goes on to make the point. According to the legal opinion, Namibia is a member state. If it is not comfortable, it's not bound to sign the NPA. Listen to it. It is not bound to sign the NPA if it is not comfortable with it. But our government just goes ahead and signs everything everybody puts in front of them without giving consideration to the people of Barbados and what is comfortable for the people of Barbados to engage and to embrace. This thing is being shoved down our throats, and we have to accept it.
They're trying to force us to accept something that is not part of our culture. And that's what I was saying all along. We never had a problem with two adults doing what they want to do. That is their choice. There was never no issue in Barbados about that. I mean, most of the people in the cabinet, they are of that persuasion. We never had no problem with that. So how comes now all of a sudden some people from Europe coming down and telling us, well, this is the way y'all have to look at this thing? No, we have our own way of looking at something, just like you have your way of looking at something.
Correct. And we are not going to sit by and allow you to impose your view upon us. We did that for years. And you know the thing that annoys me in the midst of this, we became an independent country in 1966. Tomorrow we celebrate 57 years of independence. The Right Honorable Errol Walton Barrow brought the country into independence in a move to try to bring us from under the yoke of colonialism and that slave mentality that prevailed from the British Commonwealth. And now what we are seeing is that we have a prime minister leading us back into a yoke of slavery now under the European Union.
That's right.
And you know, I had to laugh yesterday, Lamumba, when I heard her make the statement about how we will be friends of all and satellites of none. Madam Motley, you don't know what that means. You don't know what it means. because you are putting us in a place where we are satellites of everybody and friends of everybody. And that's one of the things that I admired Mr. Barra concerning. He was not afraid to tell the international community where Barbados stood and where he stood on a matter, and to put it plain and out there in the face of the international community. What we have now is a leadership that sucks up to everything the international community is saying and does not oppose a single thing that the
Nothing.
international community is
Nothing.
trying to impose upon our member states. But you know, Lamamba,
Yeah.
this new ambassador, I have information, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up. You give me 1 second, you know, because I like to let people see what I have, because sometimes people don't believe you when you say certain things, and they think that you are a conspiracist, or you're dealing in some you know, some faraway something or the other. Because people think that when you open your mouth and speak, that you're talking nonsense. I want to address this matter of this ambassador of the United States coming to Barbados. And the reason I want to address this is because if this gentleman, who is a major promoter of the LGBTQ2 plus agenda in the government of the United States of America, selected by Joe Biden specifically, because the entire LGBTQ2 plus agenda is being driven by the United States of America, specifically Joe Biden. He's the one specifically driving it. Listen to this. A UN resolution on election integrity sponsored by the United States was adopted by consensus, meaning without a vote, by the UN General Assembly. Several countries were upset because the United States' inclusion of the controversial LGBT terms sexual orientation and gender identity, or SOGI, and women in all their diversity, in addition to SOGI. The latter term is opposed by conservative nations because it is known to be a euphemistic way of referring to women of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities, and to also encompass men who identify as women, that is, transgender women. We aren't aware of any country that screens individuals before they vote to determine their sexual orientation or gender identity. The reason this clause was put into the resolution by the United States was to continue to advance their sexual imperialism agenda and to impose it on non willing countries in a manipulative way. It was not surprising that no country called for a vote on this US led resolution, as no country wanted to openly challenge the United States government. You see where it's coming from? This is where
Yes.
it's coming from. Now, if this gentleman, Mr. Roger Nihus, is accepted as the ambassador to Barbados, and he's the number one promoter in the Biden administration. He's one of the top guys promoting the LGBTQ2 plus agenda. When he arrives in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla, and these other countries where they don't have an embassy, he will be responsible. I can see renewal of visas and application for visas being denied, just like how Prayers Academy was disqualified by the National Cultural Foundation. I can see that happening, right? I can see that if I was to go to renew, because I'm speaking and you speaking against this lifestyle, and we are not,
Right.
and listen, we are not calling for any violence against these people. I renounce that. Neither are we calling for their denial of any civil rights in the country. I equally renounce that. I believe every Barbadian citizen, regardless of their gender, should be afforded all of the privileges of a Barbadian citizen. Would you agree with that, Lamunda?
I agree. Every single Barbadian, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, should be entitled under the law to whatever the law provides for every citizen. So when you kind of section off and saying making a group of people um you section them off from the population and say telling the population you have to respect these people rights, that is a form of imperialism, because we already have a constitution, we already have laws that cover every single person born in Barbados.
Correct. And as such, there is no provision. And I know your organization, your religious base, your religious faith, my religious faith and base. We do not cut off people because of their gender identification. A person is free to determine anything they want to be. If you want to be a monkey. But then don't expect us to look at you and see a human being and call you a monkey. I renounce anything to do with any persecution of them. I saw an article today that somebody sent to me where they were, they're persecuting them in different parts of the world. I don't agree with that any more than I agree with people of our Christian faith or people of your religious groupings, your Rastafari faith, and so on, being persecuted. If that's what you choose, Lamumba, that's what you choose. That's one of the freedoms of human rights. So Caswell, what we're talking about at this point in the program, we are looking at the. I was just reviewing the statements by Hinkson and by Simmons, and I want to touch on a couple of others too, with regards to what is called hysteria that we are creating. Some people in the country creating hysteria. So I carried Lamumba to a ministerial statement by the deputy prime minister of Namibia, who said that Namibia is not signing the agreement because there are too many ambiguities. There's no glossary. Have you ever seen a bill or anything passed in Parliament or Senate, Caswell, without a glossary of terms? Don't they always tell you at the start what something means in the document and so on?
Yes, well, every bill, usually at section 2, tells you what words mean. If they're not carrying the dictionary meaning, they tell you what the words mean. But unfortunately for this government, or unfortunately for Barbados, we have this government who doesn't have a lot of talent. So they got to rush off and get it from wherever they could. And also they need money. So if you want money, you got to pay the piper. He who pays the piper calls the tune. So we are going out there cap in hand, and we will sacrifice our children. And if the children going to burn and get me to turn LGBT, no, I too old for that. So it is the children that they're going to recruit, as the children that we have to protect. And unfortunately, a lot of people still see themselves as B and D and not Barbadians and parents first, and should come out and tell this government, you aren't doing this to my children, you aren't doing this to the people of this country. If you wanted to do that, you should have put it in your manifesto. None of these nastiness that they are proceeding with was a manifesto promise. Even the debt write-off, that was a manifesto promise. All the dirty things that they have done have come after the fact. Give you a glossy manifesto with enough promises, and the ones that they're going to hurt you with, nobody told the people to expect them. And that is been an election by deception. They deceived us to win the election, but they didn't deceive me because I didn't vote for them. I knew what was coming around the bend, and I didn't.
I didn't vote for them either.
But unfortunately,
there's the first election. 2022 was the first election that I did not vote for the Barbados Labour Party in my entire life. And the reason I didn't, Caswell, was because in 2022, we were in the midst of a pandemic. I do not know what the Constitution treated to concerning an election during a state of emergency, because we were in a state of emergency during the pandemic. I don't know what the Constitution says concerning an election. Maybe there are those who can educate me on that. But here's what was done. What was done was that the 5,000 plus people who were quarantined were not allowed to vote. Mind you, around the same time, the Bahamas had general election, and the Prime Minister of the Bahamas made provision for every Bahamian in quarantine to vote. Why was it not done here in Barbados?
Because we didn't want them to vote, because they would have been suffering from COVID and they might have been angry with the government. So you make sure that they don't vote. You see that elections, I told you, and I will tell the world that I have never seen a free and fair election in my lifetime. They have every time there was an election, there was always some nastiness to either party to win. And both of them employ tactics that are illegal. I'll give you an example. You remember a couple months back, maybe more than a year, Dominica had a court case over the elections because one of the parties was giving out food and free entertainment, and the court ruled that was treating, and it's illegal. We do it all the time. We have people on the platform dancing up and jumping up, paid for by the Barbados Labour Party at the last election. That's against the law. They did it. Tom Adams passed a piece of law, an amendment to the Representation of the People's Act. It was the Election Offences and Controversies Act that says that you can't wear T-shirts with a slogan on it. And Barbados Labour Party had enough. So I saw one of my vote me. I got in my office, somebody brought it for me. So they broke every rule. And if they broke those little rules, they will break anything else. And they broke the rules to get into office, and then they come in with integrity legislation. How can you insist on integrity legislation when everything you did didn't show that you had any integrity about winning the election? So I don't have any confidence in them. I don't trust them, and they are not working in the best interest of Barbados. They might be working in the best interest of who giving them money. Those jobs that we got from India, Barbados was the first country in the world to get them. Why you think that Barbados was so highly favored that we would get them first? And as soon as the World Health Organization says, okay, you can use them, they were already here, and Barbados pushed them up the next day. And why was this a Hindu nationalist government that don't even like lower class Hindus would prefer to take care of Bajans first? A country that don't have very many Hindus in it. Why would they want to take care of Barbados first? Ask yourselves that. You know why? Something went down. Something happened. Somebody got a favor done. Something went on. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm not going to say somebody was bribed because they can't prove it. But Barbados was used as a guinea pig. And there are all these things that they're doing now. They're using Barbados first to see how it works out. The digital IDs. United States, big United States, when the Prime Minister of Barbados told the hearing in the United States Congress or the Senate, I'm not sure which one it was right now. The senator said, I think the senator said, what is that? We don't have that in this state. We don't have that in this country. Talking about digital ID. You don't know what it is. So we are being the guinea pigs so that they can get it done elsewhere, and we will work out the kinks. And once we work out the kinks, Barbados guinea pigs are here. This is not a Barbados initiative. We are rushing out there to do other people's bidding. And of course, we have a government that is predisposed to LGBT plus QR, whatever you call them these days. And don't forget, when the Attorney General, when Mayor Motley was Attorney General under Owen Arthur, you remember there was some talk about putting condoms in the prison? This isn't something that just
Yes,
started.
I remember because I remember that because I went on air one Tuesday morning on a program that I used to host on gospel. I can't think if it was gospel 790 or something like that. Anyhow, I went on air and I lambasted that whole perspective. And I remember coming off of air and hearing that my sister was trying to reach me because she wanted to know what I did to offend the prime minister, because he tried to find me because I get on radio and chastise his attorney general. But that is my responsibility. That's my duty. I can't speak for other religious leaders, but it is my duty as a religious leader in the country. It is my responsibility to stand up for what we as Christians believe. And we do not believe in homosexuality. Our God considers it to be an abomination. My goodness, Caswell, he destroyed this. People think it's only Sodom and Gomorrah. Part of me getting a little religious for a minute, if you would permit me, because I don't. This in a religious program, this in a religious show. I want to make it clear to everybody, but every now and again, a little bit of religion just drop in there. But he destroyed all the cities of the plains, Caswell. He didn't just destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he wiped out the whole place because of this. This was the fundamentally number one reason. There were other reasons, but this was the number one reason. So don't let's mix matters on this. I have to defend what the biblical position is, and I took him to task. And I told him straight, listen, he called me, and when he called, he was chastising me for doing it. And he says something to me about exposing some of our ministers who are not most, very moral. And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, you do not want to go down that road with me, because then I would have to start exposing all of your members of parliament, because one of the most dangerous people to cross swords with is a minister of religion who got counsel women and who have to counsel wives and who have to counsel girlfriends. You do not want to cross swords with us, because we know a lot about you that you do not understand. If we open up our mouth, you're dead in the water. And I told him straight so. And that was the end of the conversation. He cooled down, and that was the end of the matter.
Heard stories about ministers and all this. I heard stories about ministers and stuff that was, and it never bothered anybody. People still vote
No?
for them. People still put
Yeah?
them in office, even though we heard about what their sexual orientation might be. So that never bothered us. So why this is the problem. This is what we're saying. Why you coming to Barbados and trying to force something on us that was never a problem in the first place?
Correct. I mean, if we have never held any of our politicians, Castle, if I'm wrong, correct me. I don't know in Trinidad, Guyana, any country in the Caribbean, that we have held our politicians to the same level of morality that America wants to hold their presidents to. Why is the United States sending an ambassador who is a strong supporter of the LGBT community at this time? Is this a strategic move by governments to silence people in this show? I am going to show you all something right now. Okay, I am not going to hold back tonight. I have been holding back, trying to be a nice person. But these people, let me see which one I want to pull up. This is an article from October 2012, when Roger Nyers called Roger Hearn to ask him out on their first date. So here we are. The Nyers is president and CEO of the Nyers Communications, a downtown communications and advocacy firm that handles the PR campaign for the marriage equality bill in the fall of 2011. Hearn is on the board of Equal Rights Washington, one of the 7 founding organizations that initially sponsored the bill. So this is the couple we have coming to Barbados. Okay, here's the next thing I want to take you to, because people need to see that when we tell you something, we are not joking, right? Because people think that we are conspiracy theorists. People think that we are what is
Rabble
the saying,
rouses,
creating.
rabble rouses.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are let me see which one. Right, this is the other one here I want to share. Seattle business leader Roger Nyhus confirmed as ambassador to Barbados. Don't know what happened in here now.
You know, I was talking just now when I got lost I lost my song. I was
You're good
talking
and clean
about the Lome Convention. That was a trading agreement between the African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries. This is the countries that the Europeans robbed and colonized. So they were trying to find a way to have to give people in these countries a preferential access to the European markets. So ours was it was about trade. Then the success agreement to that was Cotonou or Cotonou, if they call it, I don't remember the exact pronunciation. And now the Samoa agreement, this is trade, mind you, this is trading agreement, you know. This is about trade. What does encouraging people to pass laws so that we can become all perverts have to do with trade? So that's what I'm saying to you. That we want the people's business, so we will turn around and let them do what they want to do to us, kick us in the behind. And Barbadians must stand up and say, no, we don't want our country to be going down this road. And I don't care who is in power. If the Dems were in power, I would say the same thing. They have no mandate from the people of this country to do this. Their mandate came in their manifesto. This is what their manifesto is what they plan to do. I can understand going outside of the manifesto in times when there's an emergency, when something happens that you did not anticipate. But these things were anticipated long ago. And so they can't tell me that they didn't know that the Barbados Labour Party leadership was pushing an LGBTQ agenda. No, but they were pushing it. The Prime Minister is the poster child for it in the international community. And now Barbados must all follow the leader. This is one time I am marching and step with them. If they're marching left, right, I'm marching right, left. I am not. And I don't encourage any Barbadian and any person in this country who have little children to sacrifice their children because you're too afraid to stand with the government, or you are a supporter of the government. You have at least to be a supporter of your family first. And after that, any number could play. But you can't, and if you're a Christian, you're going to be supporting your God. If you're not a Christian, and you got to know that this behavior is abhorrent simply because sex first is to procreate. You don't procreate with two males. And I keep telling people all the time, two rams don't get a lamb. So something has to be wrong with it. I will not sit idly by and allow any group of perverted politicians internationally, locally, or regionally to destroy this country.
And I will join you. I am not going to sit by either as a husband, a father, a grandfather, a citizen, and a Christian minister. And I know Lamamba ain't going to sit by either.
That's right.
And I know the entire Rastafari group ain't going to sit by either. And I can tell you the entire Pentecostal, Wesleyan, Nazarene. Let me tell you, we are a massive voting bloc. And I'm warning the government right now, change course or we will vote you out of office. One of the largest voting blocs in this country is the religious voting bloc. And the evangelicals and the Rastafari and the Muslims, they are a large voting bloc. And I can tell you, no true Muslim is going to support this. Because in some of those Muslim
Right.
countries, you know, Lamamba, that they don't put a sanction on a single Muslim country
Of
that is
course not.
against these laws. Not a
If you
I don't
notice, if you notice, all these countries they're pushing this on is people of color. You're not
I
seeing them going.
of
You're not
course
seeing them going to those Arab states
no
and pushing
no
that. They're not going to do it.
They don't go to Iran. They don't go to Iraq. They don't go to Saudi Arabia. They don't go to Abu Dhabi. They don't sanction none of them countries.
And not only that, they have laws on their books that says that if you get caught in a homosexual act, you will be murdered.
Yeah, you're dead. You're dead.
You're
Then
dead.
hands
It
and
ain't
buttons
no going to
about it.
prison. It ain't no going to prison.
No.
You're dead. And
But
America don't tell them that that's y'all got to change those laws if y'all want to trade with us, or they don't say anything.
No.
America is bullying people. You remember they tried sending a gay ambassador? I wanted to call it the Bayesian B word, but I can't do that in this program. A gay ambassador to Jamaica, and there was a hue and cry. I can't remember what happened in the end, but they want to do it to Barbados now. Next day they're going to do it to Antigua.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Caswell and Lamumba. The reason you'll notice the first thing the Barbados government did was to take buggery off the law books.
Right.
Buggery is off the law books. It is not off the law books in Jamaica. So what Jamaica is telling you, the United States, is that they cannot have somebody sent into the country that defies the legislative position and constitutional position of Jamaica, because buggery is still on the law books in Jamaica. So they can't have a same-sex relationship couple coming in to represent the United States ambassadorial until that is removed. That's what Jamaica is telling the Americans.
But our government didn't actually remove it. What they did, they changed the Constitution. And then the interpretation of Section 26 of the Constitution, so that the courts now will be the people doing it, because under the Constitution, Section 26 is what they call the Savings Laws Clause. Those laws that will be considered to be unconstitutional now, if we pass them now, remain constitutional because they were in existence prior to independence. So one of those laws was the buggery laws. The government of Barbados went to Parliament and put a different interpretation of Section 26 and says Section 26 is to be interpreted to bring in conformity with, I'm trying to get the exact word here, but I have it here. So now the courts don't really have a choice. But I would have filed a trial for the judge. I would tell us, very sorry, but I am not ruling that way. Let Parliament come and do it. But the judge went ahead and allowed the government to tie their hands.
I want to draw people's attention while you're talking about that to the screen, where they can see for themselves. This gentleman has been confirmed. He's the ambassador to Barbados, the Federation of St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Lucia, Antigua, Barbuda, the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent. Now look at the rest of the information. He received this position because he was a major funder for the Joe Biden presidential campaign. Okay, he was a major funder. Look a little further now. Look, he is an enrolled member of the Chinook Indian Nation and has been a leader in LGBTQ plus right causes. He's incredibly honored to come to serve in the Caribbean as this guy who promotes this stuff. He founded the NIAS Communications, a prominent Seattle public relations and advocacy firm, right? And is a senior advocacy officer for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Do you all understand what is going on here? Do the people of this country understand what is going on? The liars that we have running this country, trying to give people the impression that we are creating an issue, when the issue is what they have created by following the particular processes that they are following. They're the ones creating the issue, not anybody in this program or in this country. I have just shown you all for the facts. And that is what we have to engage. I tell you something, I didn't come on this program tonight to make the fun, because yesterday, Lamumba, you know what we had yesterday? Was that an Independence Day celebration or Republic Day? Because
I'm
Caswell got
confused.
a communique from the government headed, and I wish I could pull up the video. I don't know if I can pull it up as a video, but it is headed Independence Day stroke Republic Day. Am I not correct, Caswell? Isn't that what you received?
You're absolutely correct.
So the government themselves didn't know what we're celebrating tomorrow. Even though we were told when the first sought to bring it in, we were told, let me see if I can open it up. I uploading it so people can see. I ain't joking about this thing. Because there are people calling us, telling the prime minister is saying how some of our actions are treasonous. I am taking serious disgust to those statements because we oppose you and because we disagree with you. So when the official opposition is in existence, you're going to say that their disagreement is treasonous too? Those are the words of a dictator. When you start using that language, you're using the language of a dictator who is threatening you and saying to you that you
In
cannot
August of 2021,
oppose
the
her
Prime Minister of Barbados
because
emphatically and
of your.
categorically stated there will be no change to the name of Independence Day in Barbados.
There is no change to the flag. There is no change to the name of Independence Day. There is no change to the name of Barbados.
In 2021, Barbadians genuinely believed the Prime Minister, as they did when she told them, "Gimme to vote and watch ma." They believed her and gave her all 30 seats in Parliament. They never expected that within a few months these big promises would change and a new tune would be sung. Beijan's mouths dropped wide.
It shows the disparity within the government, because when it came to the ID, you had the Attorney General coming out and saying that it is not mandatory for you to take the Barbados Trading ID. It is within a couple of weeks, the Prime Minister coming and saying, I had a ticket because by the end of January, the old IDs are going to be illegal and you're going to have to pin it.
She lied from the beginning of COVID. From the beginning, when she said, go on and take it, don't listen to those conspiracy theorists. They don't know anything, even
And
though they told us that it is an experimental drug. They don't know the effects of it. So we were the guinea pigs. They told us that. So we had the right to refuse. But then she contacted the private sector. She came out and said the government will not force anyone to take vaccines, but she allowed the private sector to put the pressure on the people to take it.
yeah, because you couldn't go to work unless you had it. Go on, Caswell. I see you
Yes,
want
I'll tell you what.
something.
I'll tell you something. Right now, there is a case pending before the Employment Rights Tribunal. A case that I was involved in. I was representing one of the ladies who was forced because they had passed laws in Barbados to say that that was illegal. You cannot force anybody to go through a medical procedure, or you can't force them. It's the Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act. It is contrary to the laws of Barbados, but the government allowed employers to force employees, even though they had only recently. But you remember the day when they walked through the Parliament over Lisa Cummins coming in, having been tested for COVID and waiting for results.
Yes.
You remember that? That was the very day it was passed. That law was passed on that day. So government can have forgotten, but their deceit, they allowed employers, encouraged them to get people tested. And I remember, I'm not going to call the employer's name. I'm not going to do that to them. But a young lady working for one of these employers, a hotel, they said that if you don't take the vaccine, you can't work at that particular place. So she didn't want it, but she wanted a job because she had children. So she took the vaccine. And within days of taking the vaccines, she had all kind of splotches all over her skin, under and her legs. She got varicose veins. A young lady who told me that she never had a headache before. Then she started getting migraine, varicose veins. She had to wear these stockings, and she had to go through all kind of tests. The government expert, the ones the government was using, Dr. Henry, he said it was as a result of this particular vaccine, and he gave even the batch number. He was the same person who gave evidence in the case that he said that Martin Lee could have died from the vaccine, words to that effect, and the coroner refused to take his evidence. Mind you, the government was using it all along when he was saying, well, yes, this person is sick because of the vaccine, and because he was the expert, they accepted him. I go to a meeting now with the Attorney General, and I asked, and this young lady now has been spending every cent she had, all her savings went, because she want to live, and she's fighting hard. So now, after spending thousands upon thousands of dollars to fix a problem that the government and her employers caused, nobody's looking at help her, you know. I'm at a meeting representing nurses, and I said, you know, I'm going to throw in this thing here because I want some help for this young lady. She wanted $1,600 to do a blood test that was not available in Barbados, and they had to send the blood overseas. By this time, she spent so much money, she didn't have it. And I raised it with the Attorney General, and he looked me in the face and said, oh, the government doesn't have any liability. I lost it then, and I used probably not the nicest language. And when I was going through my tirade, Dr. George said, okay, we can take care of it. You know?
He's another one. He said
the government has no liability. Mind you, he said that in front of several witnesses. And I lost, you know, this is a guy I went to school with. And that was the point in time when I lost all respect for him. I was losing it gradually because he was doing a lot of crap. But whatever residual respect I had for him all went that there. This is a lady, you know, who was fighting for her life. And he said, oh, the government doesn't have any liability. I said, I'm not talking about liability, I'm talking about humanity. You know, stop being human now. Man, I cannot believe my ears. But that is what they do. Because they want to follow an agenda from outside. They want to use Barbadians as guinea pigs. The same Jobby Water, that is another experiment that they want to use. That's why because the Netherlands want to do it, you know. And you see who went to the Netherlands and come back now, all of a sudden they want me to drink Jobby Water. Because they want to try it in Barbados. Next thing you know, they will give us the plant, and Barbados does not have the facilities or the capacity. We can't get things right down here. And you're going to tell me that you're going to ask people, and then because you remember at that same press conference, she started talking about the Jobby Water too, because it's bothering her. Everything that we say on this program seems to be a bother to her. If she wants to come on the program, come on the program. Freddie, you will stop her?
No, as a matter of fact, the last time I was on the program, I issued a challenge to her to come on the program. I issued a challenge to any of the cabinet, any of the ministers, come on the program and explain to the people of Barbados and show to them that what we are saying is incorrect. Because I'm going to tell you, we are backing up what we are saying with the facts. Because when I hear stupidness by Hinkson, talking foolishness about how we are going around the country, some small group of people going around the country trying to stir up trouble. When we got the Deputy Prime Minister of Namibia, and you have several other countries raising concerns exactly in the same place that we're raising concerns. And then you got this foolish news media down in St. Vincent, some stupid news media down in St. Vincent, want to suggest that because we are raising concerns about this thing, something called searchlight foolishness, some stupid media down there want to suggest that our concerns and our fears are baseless. And mind you, the document is clear. The Prime Minister of Namibia made the point. There's no glossary. There's no explanation. Once you sign on, you're bound to it. And why would you include anything to do with sexuality, health, or anything of that nature in a trade agreement? Why would you include it? What is the purpose of putting it into a trade agreement unless it carries with it some additional connotation? And I make no apologies for it. Tell Hinkson come here and debate it with us. Tell Simmons come here and debate it with us, and we'll show you where our concerns are. We're not joking about this. We're tired of this country being sold out to the international and global agencies. The World Health Organization now want governments around the world to sign on to an agreement by next year, which will give the World Health Organization sovereign control of every country in the next pandemic. Not in Barbados.
But you'll be surprised. Our government will be saying, "Where's the pen?" Because they want money. And let me tell you something. You see that those grandchildren that you're talking about all the time, that you're so proud of, when the Prime Minister finish borrowing all this money, their children will be paying back
Are
those
going
loans.
to exactly. I was just about to address some foolish statement from some Trinidadian, some not Trinidadian, some Vincentian um, uh, news media that talking nonsense about, even had the disrespect of the Catholic Archbishop's assertion that the European Union is imposing an ideology that's not ours, talking about how it's baseless, and that we are people moving toward demagoguery and I just trying to use some of the stupid, ignorant language that these people use, talking about how um, we are exploiting people's anxieties and fears. Mind you, they're the people who are raising these matters. We are not. We are confronting them on what they are getting us as countries involved in. And that's the problem they have.
Look,
They don't want to be confronted.
they are doing it by stealth. If the government had nothing to hide, they would have come out in the
Come
open
out
and
and
let
do
us
it.
know what they were doing. All of these things have been happening behind the backs of the people who elected them. Their supporters and the people who they're deceiving them too. They're only deceiving the people that vote for them. They're even deceiving the people that voted for them. If you had a problem or you want something to fix, or you want to come into an agreement that you know would be controversial, you don't go and do it on the sly. You that's like going through somebody's window like a thief in
But
the
you
night.
know, but you know, but you know what the Lord said about people who don't come in through the door, that go in through the window and go in other means. He called them a thief and a robber. That's what he called them. He said, if you try to get in any other way, you are a thief and a robber. You got to come in through the door.
No, but they want people to come to the back door. That's the
You mean
problem.
the bringing people in through the back door, and then when we see them coming through the back door, we challenge them as to what right they have to be in the house. Then they're going to inquire with us and talk a lot of foolishness about how we are acting in a treasonous manner, and we are creating, we are bigots and homophobic and all that rubbish. I'm
Treason,
tired of that, man.
treason
Done.
is a very serious offense. It carries the death penalty. Now, if anybody on this show were treasonous, then it's incumbent upon the Prime Minister, if she thought so, to refer to the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Public
And and and,
Prosecutions.
and absolutely, and investigate it.
Instead of talking rubbish for yard fouls to jump on. If something we said was treasonous, she has a duty. She has a duty to refer it to the appropriate authorities for prosecution. They're not
It
treason
may
in our behavior.
it may not be appropriate for me to say any particular individual is a child abuser. But if you are going to be supportive of legislative implementation in your country as a result of a trade agreement that are going to threaten the gender position of children and the right of parents to control their children and to have the oversight of their children, and to threaten those parents with the removal of the children and placed in the hands of the states, don't tell me foolishness. We know that this is the direction they are going. That is the problem with them. They're getting exposed. And because they're getting exposed, they're talking foolishness about treasonous. But it is child abuse when you introduce the type of legislation we see in California and we are seeing in Canada, where a child who don't even know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, who can hardly call their name, who can hardly read, that wants to transition, that if the parent says no, that can't happen in here, that the government can take that child away. We will not permit that in this country over my dead body.
You see, when you transition a child or anybody, that body could very well be dead. It is serving no useful purpose. You are the first and the primary functions of human beings are to procreate. When you lob a man's genitals off and punch a hole for him, the thing is artificial. He can't. And I don't care how hard he try, he will not produce a baby. I don't care what they say. He will. He is still a man who has lost his manhood. He's never become a woman. And I don't understand why a government of people who went past primary school could go and sit down at international fora and agree to this kind of nonsense unless the people doing it are sick.
Mind you, and what we hear yesterday is that nobody in control in Barbados. That is a joke. That is a joke. We know different. Kimar knows different.
Look, nobody controlling Barbados. Just today, I don't know if it actually happened because I was in meetings today and I didn't hear the word or any kind of stuff. But today, the government went back to the Senate to pass a bill for the second time, contrary to the rules of the Senate. The national insurance bill, because the IMF determined that that national insurance must be a commercial state enterprise where they can carry people's money. And government, even though, and when we picked it up on this show, remember, it was this show that called them out. Then the chairman of the national insurance came and said it was a mistake. Well, they went back to Parliament with the same bill again. But let's talk about that one item. And in a case like that, the rules of the Senate, I think it is, oh Lord, Rule 58. I think it's Rule 58. And look, standing orders of the Senate. And I can tell you now, I could be wrong, but I can look. Rule 58. Barbadians, when they gave the government 30 seats, shot themselves in the foot. Or worse, they shoot off the manhood. But so, Freddie, let me read it, because
go ahead.
What the IMF instructed them to do. So they had to get back to Parliament today. They went back last week in this House and passed a new bill. And
the day before the 57th celebration of independence, you going to put people into Parliament to do this?
All right, but they want to do it. It has to come into force by IMF edict by the 1st of December. So it had to come today. And this is what the standing orders of the House provide. The standing orders of the Senate. The standard orders of the Senate, Standard Order 58, it says bills containing substantially the same provisions. That's the heading. Once the second reading of any bill has been agreed to or negative, no question shall be proposed during the same session for the second reading of any other bill containing substantially the same provisions, meaning that they will have to prorogue Parliament in order to do this, because this is in the same session. As a matter of fact, it happened in August this year. I know this is September, October, November, 3 months, same session, and they do it again. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I suspect they will abuse the rules of the Senate and say we can suspend the standing order. So they follow no rules. If something gets in the way, they just shift the rule. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I suspect that this is what they would have done in order to do this. There's a reason for that. It's abuse. It's abuse of power, and they don't care. They have masters that they have to take directions from. So the IMF said, you have to get it done by the 1st of December. You're going to get done by the 1st of December. But let me tell you something. What they have done is to put people in the public service They're gonna pit them against national insurance because national insurance was a public service department. They've been doing nothing spectacular. They're doing clerical work like everybody else, and they were receiving clerical pay. Now they give the clerks $300 more at national insurance, but the other people up the line getting $15,000 and $16,000 when the month come. The police, teachers, customs officers, nurses, and want to know how come we can't get more money. One guy that I know, he's a friend of mine. He has submitted his papers for retirement at national insurance, and the staff collected money to have a little get together for him. But when these people change over the salaries to the new things that they come in mind, the father said, "No, boy, I retired no more." He called back for them papers. $2,000 more. So they are looking to put public officers against one another because let me tell you something. People are not going to be happy, especially people. You have teachers in the public service. Nurses, as I said before, and I will say again, they are the lowest paid officers that require a 4-year degree in the public in Barbados. The lowest paid. And you can find that type of money because national insurance does not make money. If you were saying, well, we are paying them for the money that national insurance make, so be it. National insurance does not make money. National insurance collects money. If somebody give you some money and say, Freddie, carry this money for Caswell and give you $1,000, you're another $1,000 richer. You're just a messenger, bringing it in, and that's what national insurance actually doing. They're the agent. They're collecting the money and put it down in trust for you. It is not you and me and whoever else pays national insurance. They don't make money, but so because the IMF see a lot of money going in there, they won't get their hands on it. And of course, the government won't get their hands on it because they can't help themselves. So they know, but as I said, I did not hear any debate today because it was not available. I was representing an officer before one of the panels in the public service disciplinary matter. So I was not able to hear anything in the Senate today, but I saw the order paper. So it's supposed to be coming. It's supposed to be today, and it had to be today because the government, the IMF has instructed that it must be passed and must be enforced. So what they're going to do today is to keep the president on standby. And as soon as it passes, they're going to get the president and Senate to sign it, rush off the government house, and get the president to sign, and then publish it online and say it is published in the official gazette. And then it becomes the laws of Barbados so they can abuse the people of this country. And unfortunately, the Senate, except one or two instances where people might stand up, is just a rubber stamp. That's all it is designed to do. They cannot not pass this in the Senate because the government has 12 senators out of 21. 12 will beat the rest of them every time. We have a government of bullies that don't care.
The government blame the independent senators for the failure of the integrity legislation.
Yep, I remember that. I remember that clearly.
That was an absolute lie. Because the government never put the legislation before the Senate. They never asked for a vote on it because they thought that they would have been beaten. So they never put the question. They went around knowing that is true, that they never put the question and get it defeated or approved. They then walk around the country telling lies. I heard the Attorney General with it, saying that was the independent senators. No independent senator, no opposition senator, no government senator voted on it because it was never put to the Senate. That was a lie, and it continues to be a lie. They never ever brought it because it would have been defeated anyhow because they needed 14 votes to pass it in the Senate. That day, there were only 13 people in the Senate. So it could not have passed anyhow. So they lied. You see, they like to give people the impression that somebody sabotaging them and all kind of stuff. And they would tell any lie to get away what they're doing. This is not the first time I've heard that, Kmart, and I thought this won't be the last. But the people on this program, I'm telling you, check for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Ask them what was the outcome of the vote when they claimed that the independent senators sabotaged our bill. Ask them. You wonder what it would be? There was no outcome because they never put it to the vote. They're lying.
But you see, then when you have to tell people this, then you hear a lot of crap talk. You hear a lot of foolishness. I hear a lot of foolishness come off that platform yesterday with the unveiling of that thing. I don't even know what to call it, because what I see there is a promotion of whatever you think family is supposed to be. It can be faceless, baseless, nothing at all. It can be anything you want family to be. Didn't even have the intestinal fortitude. You could put an image of Errol Barra in Independence Square, an image of Grantley Adams in front of the buildings on Bay Street, in front of government headquarters. You can't put a face, a male and female and child face on a statue so that people know what a family is in this country. So don't come to me with no stupid talk. What I see, this is my opinion. What I see is a faceless, baseless family, whatever you want it to be, which has set the precedent for what the agenda is relative to family. Because family is, let me be clear, the natural family is man plus woman equals child. That's the natural family. Anything outside of that ain't natural.
We are perverting everything in this country, and Barbados are standing up and saying no and taking it. How much more abuse will the people of this country sit down and allow? Anywhere else, this government would have been gone.
You saw what happened. It was Paris or Italy? Remind me.
You saw what happened. You mean with the pension arrangements?
Yeah, when they changed the age by 1 year.
Yeah, the people rioted, burn cars, break up stores, and all kind of stuff. And over the years, national insurance pensions was payable at 65.
No, sorry to cross the cows, but let me be clear on this show. We are not inciting anybody to riot or do anything of the sort. You can arrange with the police, have protest marches every day, every week. But we are not inciting anybody to riot and engage any form of violence. So I don't want anybody to come and accuse us of any treasonous acts or treasonous suggestions.
No, they can't say that about me or you or Kimar or Lamumba. We have never advocated anything of that sort. What we have done is to challenge those people to be decent. And because they don't want to be decent, they will attack us. And I find it as a badge of honor when they attack me because I know I'm doing the right thing. When the devil is opposing you, you know you're on good ground.
My mind went back to the Samoa Agreement and a couple other things. The devil is in the details.
Yes.
The devil is in the details. That's why nobody don't want to deal with the details. That's why they don't want to deal with transparency and accountability, because the devil is in the details. And that is what we are getting at. That's where the devil is.
Barbados is only being used as puppets to help them push forward their thing. And we seem to have no pride. We talk about pride in industry. But where is the pride? Where is the honesty? When you will come and do things like this and don't tell anybody. You want to sneak things in us through the back door. Get rights thing through the back door. And don't want Bajans to say, I don't agree. Now, let me tell you something, see. Barbadians have always been people like that in our society. We never did anything to them. We accepted them as for who they are. But we are not asking the government to promote it. Or we have never promoted it. If a fellow went that way, that's his business. He has to face the judgment. And if he's prepared to do that, so be it. Because all of us have free will. But the government of the people should be stressing the values of the people, not stressing the values of the international community. You know, let me tell you something. You might not believe this, but during my research, because I do a lot of research, I like Kimar. Not as good, but I like Kimar. And I discovered that the African people that were brought to Barbados, in some of their dialects, some of the language they spoke, there was no word for homosexuality. Some black people came to these parts of the world without knowing what homosexuality was. Because if it existed in their countries, it would have got a name. They would call it something. They didn't know what it was. There was no word for it.
Okay, let me see if I can share it here.
I want to say this. For a country as small as Barbados, electricity is going off a little too regular for Americans. And having to pay these high costs like this every month, I feel that the current should be on all day, every day. But, you know, I went and I do some research and digging on this topic. And I get to realize realistically it's not elected power that actually bleeding Barbadians. Lo and behold, it's the government of Barbados that's squeezing Barbadians. And I can explain exactly how the government of Barbados squeezes the average Barbadian in terms of like bills. Now, when we pay like bill, we pay a customer charge, which is roughly about $12 a month. We pay now energy cost, which means that the amount of energy you use to pump electricity to your house, you can pay 16 cents per 125 kilowatts. If you go over that, you gotta pay a little more. So if you use more electricity, you gotta pay a little more, which is cool. So Light and Power now will collect the customer charge and they collect the energy charge. Where the government of Barbados come in now is that the government charges Light and Power to buy fuel from them. So the rate that the government sets, they then pass it down to Light and Power, and then Light and Power passes it on to the people of Barbados to pay that fuel price to recoup the cost that the government charged them. So last month and things like that before, I realized that the light bills are real high. When I check it out, the fuel adjustment clause was upwards to like 44 cents. Traditionally, this thing has been around like 30 something cents, and like anything between 30 to 35 cents on average. But this thing upwards to 40 something cents for the month. And the reason why light bills coming out late this month is that the government has not sent down the fuel adjustment for the price for the month of November as yet. And I can bet you that the fuel adjustment clause in Barbados is going to be fairly high because the people in the country will use more electricity onto November into December. So the government stands to benefit from that. The government, on top of the fuel adjustment clause, collects 2 VATs, 7.5% VAT, and that is for the first 250 kilowatts of usage. And if you go over that, you then got to pay 17.5% in VAT. So that's the government collecting 2 VATs on top of collecting the fuel adjustment clause. So you see exactly how the government is leeching off of Light and Power and sucking VAT and fuel costs out of the people of Barbados and jacking up the price of electricity in the country. So you pay more money in fuel and you pay more money in VAT combined than you actually pay for a light bill. And that's wrong. So if it is that your light bill, as seen in this picture, is around $94, you see how much money you gotta pay out to the government? Light and Power only collecting about $32 out of that money. And the government of Barbados collecting around $62.45 if your light bill is $94. So you seeing the difference? That Light and Power collecting $32 and the government of Barbados collecting $62 on a light bill. But then you're paying for light, you're paying for fuel, and you're paying it in VAT. So the government needs to fix that. The government needs to lower this fuel adjustment clause so that the bills in Barbados could be lower, because this is wrong. The current always off and these bills keep going up, and y'all giving us the impression that it's Light and Power that doing this, when it's the government of Barbados that actually overcharging the people of this country using Light and Power to pay all of the money in fuel and VAT. Don't need to fix that. So you get tired of this thing. Can't off all eternity. I got things to do. Fix this, government. Fix it.
The fuel adjustment clause was only supposed to reimburse for the actual cost of the fuel. But now it has become a profit center. Because remember, the government is buying the cheap bunker. Sea fuel is the cheapest fuel you can get to power Light and Power. And then they are charging them at a premium rate because, mind you, the fuel rates, the oil, the price of fuel has been coming down. Every so often we get a little peak of a thing, but ours have never significantly come down. This fuel is the cheapest fuel, and you are charging premium to Light and Power for it because Light and Power don't actually import the fuel themselves. It comes from the Barbados National Oil Terminal, whatever they call it these days, and that's owned by government. Government is making a killing, and they should not be doing so because Light and Power is providing a service. If the power goes up, the cost of power goes up, everything else goes up as a result. So you must try to keep power down as much as possible. Not for government trying to balance their books by ripping off the people of this country. They do it all the time. They did it with the water when they put a $45 tax on people who were paying $32 in water. They do it all the time. Some people somebody got to stand up. You know, we can't say that we want McLean and but we ain't got no McLean no more. We got to stand for ourselves. Barbados got to stand up and start looking for people to stand up for them. Or if somebody stand up for you, then what you need to do is when they ask you to join them, join them. I was disappointed with the level of turnout on the marches. We had 300 people at one stage. That's the highest we had. And the issues that we were marching about affected every Barbadian. And we should have seen more.
Thank you all so very much for being a part of the show tonight and making it the success that it is. We wish Barbados a happy 57th Independence Day, and we look forward to sharing with you at the first day of the beginning of the 58th Independence Day for Independence Year for Barbados. So God bless all of you. Lamumba, my good friend and brother, thank you for being on tonight. God bless you.
Thank you
For
for
being here
inviting me.
tonight. Oh, you're welcome anytime. If you can make it on again, we look forward to having you, Caswell, as usual. Thank you for being here, Kamar. Oh boy, and of course, Reverend Dr. Ferdinand, we want to thank him too. Happy 57th anniversary, independence anniversary to all Barbadians. God bless you,
Good
and
night.
we thank you for being here. Good night.